Jane Austen's novels are originally published like this in 3 volumes. They're what we call 3-deckers. The idea was that you could borrow the books from a circulating library and read them 1 volume at a time, and publishers like that because it increased borrowing costs at the circulating libraries. Jane Austen's novels were originally published in this format. They are described nowadays as being uncut in the original boards. You'll see that the book itself is in a very simple binding. It's a paper binding with paper covered boards and a paper spine, usually with a little printed label on the spine as well. This is her first novel, her first published novel, which is Sense and Sensibility. It's just Sense and Sensibility, a novel by a lady. Nobody bothered putting authors' names on for these kind of novels. They weren't considered prestigious enough usually to put authors' names on at this time. The ideal for collectors is to get the novels in these original boards, because the original boards are fragile, and in some cases they were regarded as a temporary binding. So you might choose to have your novel bound in a leather binding rather than keep it in the original fragile boards. One of the attractions of books uncut in the original boards is that the page edges are uncut. They're untrimmed along the fore and lower edges. The top edge, the leaves are folded over, and when you bought the book you'd get a small knife or a piece of horn, something like that, and you would slide the pages open, and that would open the gathering so that you could read the book. When you get a book that's rebound, typically the edges would then be trimmed straight, so the fore edge becomes straight and it would be decorated. This has got some speckling on the edges, which gives a nice decorative effect. A typical binding of the period would be what's called half calf, which is the spine and the corners of the binding are done in leather, usually calf, sometimes sheepskin, which is a little cheaper, and with leather corners. The sides would typically be covered in this marbled paper, which was a typical decorative paper of the era. Books like this is the first edition of Mansfield Park, are valued especially if they retain the original half titles. Half title is a single leaf which just has the title of the book. It doesn't have the author's name or any of the imprint details on it. This copy of Mansfield Park does have the original half titles. It's also got an early ownership inscription on the title where the owner has written their name to avoid the book being stolen, probably. Here's another copy of Mansfield Park, which has been entirely rebound to style. This is a modern binding intended to resemble a contemporary binding, one contemporary with the publication of the book, and it's done in exactly the same style.